So, you're a wrestling fan, eh? Well, this is another wrestling podcast. And it's the best podcast. If you're not listening, well, your mother still dresses you.
It's time for another wrestling podcast.
The measuring stick just changed around here, buddy. You're looking at
the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. They got the answers. I change the question. The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
These are the best in the world, brother. These are the best at what they do.
When we talk about the legends of the sport, there's only two in my book.
Another wrestling podcast.
All right. Welcome to another wrestling podcast. I'm Credo, and this is episode 127. For those of you who have listened to us for 125 episodes, I believe, Jonathan Benjamin, who has been, half of this show, he unfortunately will not be on the show for the foreseeable future. Life moves pretty fast. Jonathan has helped build this show, and we wish him nothing but the best. I'm sure we will hear from him again in the near future, hopefully. But as the saying goes, the show must go on, and so we shall. So officially this week, I'm welcoming Angry Kuter to the show as a co-host. Kuter man.
What's going on, brother?
Welcome. Hey, you helped fill in for the past few shows, but now, things happen in life. People need to do things. You can't do the same thing. Nothing ever lasts forever, pretty much. But
I hear you, Credo. It's a shame. JB is always somebody I've always wanted to work with on the mic. I always dug his style. He's just a smart individual. He just knows history the way I know history. So it's a shame I didn't get to work with him. I hope I do get to work with him in the future. So until then, the show must go on.
That's right, man. So like I said, we wish nothing but Jonathan but the best. And hopefully we'll hear from him down the line. But, Kuter man, happy birthday. You had a birthday this week. I got to wish you a happy birthday.
Thanks, bro. I've had an interesting week. I mean, literally the day before my birthday, I had the wisdom teeth pulled out, so my jaw has been swollen out like a foot. It's disgusting, dude.
Well, hey, thanks for doing the show this week. I mean, in pain or whatnot, you're here, so thank you.
You know what the worst part about it is? I literally have to put my hand in front of my mouth because my jaw is swollen so much that I, literally spit when I talk, so I'm like a toothless drunk. It's terrible.
All right. Well, hey, guys, stay tuned to Outback Jack. He's going to be on the show in a little bit, so stay tuned. He was from the 80s, if you guys didn't remember. Pretty much around the time when Crocodile Dundee came out, the movie, it was pretty big in the 80s. He came in, he was in the WWF for a little bit. We're going to talk to him a little bit about his career, so stay tuned. And speaking of Outback Jack, we're also going to be talking a lot about the Aussies today. A lot of Australians who have made it big in wrestling. We're going to talk about that today as today's topic later on, so stay tuned for that. But I'm going to bring something back, Kuter. I'm going to bring something back I haven't done in a while. It's called 60 Seconds Sucka.
Now, right, brother, show me how it's done, man.
All right, so within 60 seconds, I'm going to give you my little review of Clash of the Champions. So I'm going to get the clock ready and get the music going. So I'm going to try to give you my review of Clash of Champions in 60 seconds or less. We'll see how I do. So here we go. 60 seconds.
Sucker!
All right, Clash of Champions from the bottom to the top. Nia Jax, lose the doll face, go full-blown Samoan badass. You're not a Barbie doll. You're Bam Bam Bigelow. Alicia, you look amazing as always, and you should be used better than in Jobberland. New Day, they continue to do what they're doing, which no one cares about anymore. Creative has killed the club. Cruiserweights, they feel like they have been a part of the show for years. It's been a great transition from the CWC to the main roster. The best of 7 series ends in a no contest. What the fuck? Thank you for wasting a month of my life on this. Jericho wins, and I'm okay with that, but Sami Zayn has nothing going on for him right now. If only El Generico was around, that would probably be something special. Beautiful women's match, but it ends with a boot? Are you kidding me? Roman wins a mid-card title. Okay. KO crotch chops need to be a weekly thing. Hell, Seth Rollins crotch chops need to be a weekly thing too. I get that KO is a heel and he's been winning heelishly, but it would be nice to showcase him as a true powerhouse and get a clean win once in a while. That's my 60 seconds pay-per-view review. Okay,
Talk about a mouthful, brother. God damn.
I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse over here, but we could talk about this for an hour. But it was just a brief sum up of what happened. But I mean, we saw the pay-per-view. We gave our predictions last week, so let's just get right into the week that was, Kuter, and talk about the biggest things that have been happening.
All right, let's start with the. You already talked Nia Jax. You don't like her look?
It's one of those things to where it's like she's a big girl. We got to make her beautiful on TV. No, you don't. You don't. I mean, come on. I mean, granted, I'm not saying she's ugly. I'm just saying she doesn't need to be dressed up like she's a Barbie doll. You know what I mean? Like from the makeup like that to where she's just huge, man. Just make her a Samoan badass. Like look at Karma, Awesome Kong. The way they
I was just going to use that. Awesome Kong thing. But I mean,
no one's tuning in to see Nia Jax and what she's wearing this week. You know what I'm saying? Like she's just there to kick some ass. That's what it should be, pretty much.
It could be worse. It could be Tamina. I mean, how many times have I said she looks like a cross between Jimmy Snuka and Nicole Bass, for God's sakes?
Between both of them, I'm definitely seeing Adam's apple there. So I don't know what's up. But all in all, let's get right. The Clash of Champions was Raw's first solo pay-per-view in the new era. Did it exceed expectations? Do you think it was better than Backlash or what?
It's crazy. It almost seems like a throwaway card since we had two rematches literally the next night on Raw. I mean, we had New Day and the Club, and we have Roman Reigns up against Rusev again. I mean, it was like I could have tuned out and not watched Backlash and just watched Raw the next night.
That's it, man. And, the two biggest things out of that night that just made me not enjoy it as much as I did Backlash. One of them had to be the best of 7 series, where it ended in a no contest. And I'm sorry. Like I thought at the very end of it, I thought Cesaro got in the ring. I thought Sheamus was going to run back to the ring and just really finish it, and I would have been happy with that. But they ended it. It didn't. What? Are you kidding me? Like, is creative just plain stupid? Like, you don't drag a best of 7 series out just to a no contest. Come on.
Well, see, here's the interesting thing. This is the match that I said last week I could have cared less about, right? Mm-hmm. Or I couldn't have cared less about anyway. But it was the match of the night for me. It was incredible. I mean, these two beat the snot out of each other. And quite frankly, I don't have a problem with it going into a no contest. I like Cesaro and tag teams. I said this last week. And to see him in a tag team with Sheamus, this could be the next great dominant team. I mean,
I can't though. I can't because like he's already been in a tag team with Tyson Kidd. They've won the championships. He had a great tag team before WWE. He's been in tag teams. He's done the tag team thing. I think it's just he was kind of put on a good path to being solo. Got to change that music. Got to change some stuff that he's doing. But this man is gifted in the ring of what he can do as a performer, and it's just like I feel like they're just wasting away with ideas with him. And going back to a tag team, I feel it's just a big step back. I don't know. I just want him to succeed, and I want him to be in the main event already.
See, that's where I disagree with you because I think he excels. Some people just excel in different environments, and to me, he's a great solo act. But I've always felt that he just complements other wrestlers that much better. I mean, who else at this point do we want to take the belts off of the New Day? So here you are complaining about the New Day. Here's a fresh idea of a storyline that we've built up to get to this point, and it's been a great build. It's a total swerve. I didn't see it coming. I really, really enjoyed it. I like where this could go potentially for these two.
All right. Well, we could chalk that up to agree to disagree, but I will say that if this ends up to where a brief tag team with him and Sheamus to where they split up. Maybe Sheamus ends up winning the Universal Championship down the line. Maybe Cesaro wins the Money in the Bank, and then he cashes in on his old partner. That, at the end of the day, I'll be happy with. But right now, I'm over it. I'm just sick of seeing them in tag teams. But the other biggest upset of the night had to be the Bullet Club jobbing to the New Day again. Does the New Day really need to beat Demolition's tag title streak from, what was it? It was 478 days. They just hit 400 on Monday on Raw. I mean, I don't know. I'm like, these guys came over from New Japan Wrestling, and, granted, we've seen, half of them before in the WWE, but I don't know. They had this big following coming in. Then they split them up with the draft. They put AJ on SmackDown, leave these guys on Raw. And then after that, it's just like, we don't want to do anything with you. And I'm like, I feel like WWE has dropped the ball again on the club.
I don't get it. I mean, in this day and age, things need to move a lot faster. Some records from back in the day were meant not to be broken. This is why we don't have somebody going after Bruno's streak or even Backlund's streak as a world champion. I mean, when Punk had the belt for God knows how many days, it was deemed the longest title reign of the modern era. That's what we should be looking at now.
Yep, 434 days he had it.
Yeah, we don't need Demolition streak beaten. It's pointless. Half the fans in this day and age don't give a rat's ass or even know who Demolition is. Mm-hmm. So why is it important?
I just don't get it because, I mean, granted, they held it for a year. I think where they won it should have been the place where they lost it. That would have been a better story, I think. The New Day, they're so over, though. I feel like they just don't need the championships anymore. Like, they're beyond that point of having the straps on them for anything. And I think right now, for them, it would be better to chase it than to hold on to it. And I feel like you could have given the club the belts at SummerSlam and, just to keep to show their dominance. I mean, I know they're not AJ Styles to where they gave him the World Heavyweight Championship right away, but still, I mean, I don't know. You have these guys coming in who are probably one of the best tag teams they have on Raw, and they're not giving it to them. Now, granted, I'm still surprised Enzo and Cass haven't gotten the straps yet, but that's another story. And if Sheamus and Cesaro get a tag title match out of this and win it, I'm going to be so pissed off because I'm like, out of anybody on their team, I feel like it should have went to the club to carry that momentum from New Japan. That's all.
Here's a dumb question for you. Is Demolition in the WWE Hall of Fame?
They are not.
So why do we give a rat's ass about their streak?
I know.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Demolition's streak that nobody gives a rat's ass about. They're not even Hall of Famers.
I know. And that's the thing.
It makes no sense to me.
I know. And maybe it's just one of those things to where it's like, okay, well, if they get the belts off a New Day, what do we do with New Day then? Well, I don't know. Just keep having them wrestle. Do what they always do. I mean, they're making so much money for you. They don't need to be the tag team champions anymore. I don't know. It's just one of those things to where, and, on Raw, I forgot exactly how many days Demolition held it. And I was thinking, I thought Raw would have been the day they beat them or something like that. So I was like, okay, they won on Raw. And then I looked it up and I was like, they still have 78 days to go. Are you kidding me? I'm like, no, stop this. It was just 400 on Raw. So 78 more days till they actually beat that record. So we'll see if that happens. But man, I mean, what do you do with Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson now? I mean, I don't know. They've jobbed them out 3 times. SummerSlam, Clash of Champions, and Raw. I mean, they haven't beaten them in 3 matches. What happens? I have no idea.
They're going to start jobbing them out to the Shining Stars. Great.
No.
Oh, God.
Well, anyway, that's kind of what I'm getting into. So those are the biggest things from that pay-per-view. But, moving right along, I think the biggest thing happening right now, too, I think people are talking about is on SmackDown, where Dolph Ziggler just said he will put his career on the line against The Miz at the next pay-per-view. What are your thoughts about that? Is he going? Could he? I don't know.
I don't know. This is one of the ones where you could really go either way. I mean, we've built Dolph Ziggler up so many times just to job him out time and time again to the point where now he has nothing left to offer but his career. I mean, it's an interesting storyline. I mean, Does he finally overcome and win, a mid-card title, or does he finally go away? But Miz is saying it can't just be you disappear for a few weeks or you go to NXT. It's your whole career. So, I mean, would he be a man of his word? And if he left WWE, would he go someplace else? I don't know. I don't see him, losing this match to The Miz. I mean, he's had a nice lengthy title reign. He's at a point where he doesn't really need the belt anymore, in my opinion. I mean, he is such a great talker on the mic. Maurice compliments him well. I mean, they have that natural chemistry being that they're husband and wife. So, I mean, let's put the belt on somebody who really needs a little bit of a push, because if we beat Dolph Ziggler down into the ground anymore, he's going to reach the Earth's core, for Christ's sake.
No, I know. And, the Miz is like forever IC champion. And when we went to WrestleMania 29, he won the Intercontinental Championship on the pre-show. So that's WrestleMania 29. So it's like you go back and, ever since he won the World Heavyweight Championship, it's been downhill to where he's just never been in that main event spotlight. And, like I said, he's been forever IC champion. And, for Dolph Ziggler, man, I'll tell you what, I've seen him at work. He's come to work. He's been on Fox Business. He's been doing some shows with Kennedy. I don't know if he wants to get more into TV. He wants to do more stand-up comedy. So he's been doing some stuff like that outside of the WWE. So it almost hints at, hey, he's probably going to be leaving just to do some stuff outside of WWE, because he's another guy that they have just misused throughout the years. Everybody loved it when he cashed in after WrestleMania 29 to Del Rio.
Oh my God, yeah, yes.
And then he believed he got the concussion right after, and he had to drop the belt, and after that they never put it back on him. And man, he reminds me of if you put Mr. Perfect, Shawn Michaels, and maybe somebody else in a blender, and out comes Dolph Ziggler. Coco Beware in a blender. And you know what I mean? To where he's great. He's one of the best workers they have. He's nobody can sell like Dolph Ziggler, I think, in the WWE, except for Dolph Ziggler. I think the only unfortunate thing about him is probably that he got stuck with the name Dolph Ziggler, but he worked it and it worked out, and then nobody cared about it. But still, it's one of those things to where, man, they don't just drop career matches out of once a month. This is I think the last career match I might remember off the top of my head, and I know I'm wrong, but the last thing I probably remember is Batista, where he left. I know he quit.
Was that even a career-ending
match? That was a few years ago. That was the not when he came back for WrestleMania 30. I mean, even a few years back before that. So I'm trying to even think or remember. Maybe if you guys are listening out there, tell me what the last career match was. Anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. Cheap plug. Find our links. Tell us what am I missing? What was the last career match or whatever? But like I said, this match, it's not just like a tables match, a cage match. This, when they drop, my career on the line, 90% of the time that means the guy's leaving. So I hope it's a swerve and he wins it and he doesn't, he doesn't have to leave. But like the Miz said, man, I was at first when I heard it, I didn't see it yet on SmackDown, so I was like, oh, maybe they're just gonna move him over to Raw and write this in. But yeah, as soon as he said that, the Miz hopped in the ring and said, no, you can't go to Raw, you can't go to NXT for 30 days. You're done. I want to end your career, kind of a thing. So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, it definitely makes me want to see it even more now, because if he loses, it's goodbye Dolph, man. I don't know what's going to happen. And, he's been one of the favorites for the past few years now. But like I said, misused for a long time.
Totally, man. He's been one of my all-time faves just because of the way he makes everybody else look good. I mean, he's just like you said. It's Shawn Michaels and Mr. Perfect put together with Coco Beware. The guy he's probably one of the best that we've ever seen in terms of getting other people over. I mean, it's unfortunate that they have misused him for all these years.
Yeah, man. So we'll see what happens with that. We still got 2 weeks away for that one. Now, probably the other biggest news, and we rarely talk about TNA for obvious reasons, but here's one reason to talk about it, Kuter. It could be the last week for TNA this week. There's a lot of news going around that they barely have any funds to fund the rest of the week, and they're probably just scraping through to get Bound for Glory on this Sunday. So I don't know what's happening. Billy Corgan says, it's out of his hands to where he's pretty much funded it to Sunday, and then after that, news around the dirt sheets are, WWE could be in contention to buying out TNA. Take it for a grain of salt if you will, but they're in big financial trouble and they could go under. I don't think they're going to be saved. And if anybody buys them, if WWE buys them, I think they're only going to buy them for their library. What do you think about this, Kuter? I mean, I don't know. This could be the end of TNA pretty soon.
It's a good move if they do buy it, just because of the fact that a lot of their guys that we have up now, we have an AJ Styles, we have a Samoa Joe, we have Eric Young is signed, Mr. Glorious himself, Robert Roode. I mean, it's a way where we can finally acknowledge where they've been prior to WWE, the way that we used to talk about WCW wrestlers.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it's great for, talking about guys past, where they've been. But also, I mean, just to add that content to,
the network,
the
man.
Network.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That'd be really great, yeah.
But especially some of their earlier years, I mean, I was really into it. I mean, I remember TNA when they first came out, and they were weekly pay-per-view shows, and you had to pay, I think it was like $9.99. And I was like, Dad, I don't give a shit, man. I'm buying this. This was some of the best stuff. AJ Styles, we had... God, Ken Shamrock was the first NWA champion in TNA, and I'm like, wow. Scott Hall. I mean, they had this big battle royal. It was just a good alternative. I mean, we got the X division, which is basically like what cruiserweight wrestling is now. So, I mean, wow. I mean, just for the network itself.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, God.
But what's funny, though, is, Damian Sandow debuted there recently. Cody Rhodes is supposed to debut Sunday. So you have a lot of these WWE names who literally just went over there. So that's kind of funny. I don't think they would buy it to, because I from what I hear, they're in a lot of debt, and they're not going to just pay them to pay for all the people again and whatnot. I'm sure they'll probably bring over a lot of the names and whatnot, but I don't think they're going to keep TNA afloat like they did WCW barely at the end. So when he bought it, then he brought the people in, and they did that little thing with Raw versus WCW and whatnot, but that won't definitely happen. They just barely want to even recognize them as an indie promotion. So if anything, they're going to buy that library. They're probably going to save some of the contracts of some of the guys who are there, but not everybody.
Who's some of the notables for you, Credo? Who's some of the notables, contract-wise?
I definitely want to bring in the Miracle Mike Bennett. He's been on the Indies for a while. He's definitely a big name. And I think he hopped over to TNA just to get out of Ring of Honor, just to get on more TV in a way. So I think at the top, Mike Bennett would be a great name to bring in.
You just want to see Maria Kanellis' ass. Just admit it.
That's the benefits of it. That's the benefits. That's the extra benefits. But yeah, I mean, I think most notably him. I honestly haven't watched in a long time. But from the biggest thing that had people talking about them was, Matt Hardy and the deletion and all that stuff going on. So, that'll be interesting too. So it's stuff like that. But I don't know. There's a lot of guys down there, but I think that would be my one prospect I would definitely hire out of anybody right off the bat. But it's going to be interesting, needless to say. And we're only a few days away. We're going to find out what happens. I mean, they don't have that money to stay afloat. So maybe next week this time we could be talking about how WWE bought TNA. We shall see. Who knows?
I think also, I mean, there are some talented guys in there that we could use, not necessarily on the main roster, but let's get them in NXT. Let's get some of these veterans. I mean, I wouldn't put a broken Matt Hardy in NXT, but I'd have no problem putting an EC3 in there, or definitely a Mike Bennett. You know what I mean? Everybody forgets about Ethan Carter III. I mean,
and that's what's the funny thing is that he left. He was in NXT briefly, and they never used him, so they let him go. And then he made such a huge name for himself over in TNA. So it would be kind of cool to see him, come full circle back and just be used actually properly once again. So it'll be interesting, needless to say, because especially since they're using a lot of jobbers and a lot of indie, well, I guess you can call the indie guys jobbers, but on TV, like Braun Strowman or Nia Jax matches, even Bayley had a jobber the other night. So
I know, really.
So maybe even if they do buy it, they could use a lot of the TNA guys not to job out, but, just maybe to fill the rosters more. Who knows? So it's going to be an interesting weekend, needless to say. And lastly, I just want to remind everybody out there again, Vivian Rosati, one of the Rosati sisters. You might remember her back in the day. I think she was on TNT with, Bobby Heenan and Grill Monsoon and all that. She was one of the Bobby Heenan girls. She's been battling breast cancer, and if you guys go over to GoFundMe.com/2PWRFWK, that's 2PWRFWK on GoFundMe, you can donate and help her out with her medical needs. She's been battling breast cancer, and hey, from the marks to her, the fans out there, maybe you can go throw her $5, $10. You guys got it. You're just going to spend it on merch anyway. So come on, help somebody out who's in need of some of those extra bucks that you have. But all in all, Kuter, that's been the week that was. But coming up right now from the land down under, we have Outback Jack.
There's an old Australian stockman lying, dying. And he gets himself up onto one elbow and he turns to his mates who are gathered round and he says, "Watch me wallabies feed, mate. Watch me wallabies feed. They're a dangerous breed, mate. So watch me wallabies feed. All together now. Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down. Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down. Keep me cockatoo cool, curl. Keep me cockatoo cool. Oh, don't go acting the fool, curl. Just keep me cockatoo cool. All together now. Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down. Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down.
All right, joining us today is a superstar from the land down under, straight out of Humpty Doo and right onto another wrestling podcast. He is Outback Jack. Jack, how's it going today? How you doing?
Hey, bloody good to hear from you, mate. I'm doing quite well, actually, as a matter of fact.
How was it like growing up down under, and how big was pro wrestling there when you were growing up?
When I was a kid, there used to be World Championship Wrestling on at 12 noon on Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I would sit with Nana, and we would watch the wrestling on Saturday and Sunday from 12 noon to 1 o'clock. And very, very big fans of it. Some of the fellows we watched at the time was good Red Bastien, good grief, who else? Lord Athol Hayes, or Alfred Hayes, rather. Tex McKenzie, and just the list goes on and on. Mario Milano, Spiros Arion, and I even saw, actually, Killer Carl Cox and Dory Funk Jr. Wrestle.
Wow, so definitely pro wrestling was definitely big back then over in Australia.
Oh, yes, absolutely, yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, fast forward a little bit, what can you tell us about getting into to be a pro wrestler? Because from what I understand, you were trained by Les Thornton, right?
Correct, Les Thornton, yeah. What had actually happened, I'd come back and was finding myself in a little spot of the world so I could rest a weary head, mm-hmm. and I was up in Humpty Doo and working on a cattle station. And the deal is, on a Saturday, everybody jumps in the truck and goes to the local pub, the Humpty Doo pub. The town that has a population during the week of 40 grows to about 120 on a Saturday. Wow. And we had satellite television, and we'd watch stuff, and we used to actually watch the wrestling from Madison Square Garden via satellite at Saturday mornings at Bluey Drucker's pub. Mm-hmm. And anyway, it's just a little bit out of Darwin, and in walked these four fellas, Arnold Scoland and Hillbilly Jim, and let me think, I think Paul Roma was there, and Special Delivery Jones, if I remember right. And they came in and they said, we'd love to see what's going on. And I happened to be drinking at the bar with Norm the Bull. Uh-huh. And I said, Norm the Bull was a 2,000-pound Brahma bull, 18-month-old Brahma bull. And I said, look, here's what you do. Give us some tickets so they can all go in and watch your show in Darwin, and I'll take you out to the cattle station I work on and show you around. And that's how it happened. And then about 6 weeks after that, I got a big old envelope in the mail at the pub, and it was a letter from Vince McMahon and his director of international, which was Jim Troy, and actually a little incentive check and a contract. And about 2 weeks after that, I was on a plane, and I landed in Manhattan, met everybody, and the next thing you know, I'm up in the wilds of winter in Calgary, and I'm under the guidance of Les Thornton.
Wow, so basically you had no prior wrestling experience. I mean, they just stopped in one day, saw you, and wanted you to be a part of the WWE, huh?
Well, apparently, at the time it was the WWF. Yeah, yep, they had some, I guess, some issues on the tour, and they thought that I'd be a good character,
right.
And I wrestled amateur.
Oh, okay.
But just for the Police Boys Club, that's about it.
Sure.
And that's like police athletic league stuff. And I did pretty well at the time. I had the 3 years in a row. I was the Olympic freestyle 100 kilo plus national champion. So, I mean, it's not like going to a university meet, where the thing takes 4 days to get through. You do this thing, and you've got the same 4 opponents every day.
Sure.
It's not competition. It's more training.
Yeah. Now you mentioned too in Canada for Stu Hart Stampede Wrestling. What was it like up there? And you were just up there briefly, right, before coming into WWF then? Yeah,
I was up there for I think about 3 months, and Les got me going straight out, and obviously we traveled around all over Canada for Stampede Wrestling and Stu Hart, and it was fine. It was fine. It was an interesting part of the world to first get there and look up in the sky and see the sky completely upside down. Because, Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, same lights, but they're all upside down.
Well, now, what was it like working with Stu Hart, too, up there? Because from what I hear, too, I believe you refused to go into the Hart Dungeon. Is that a fact?
Oh, downstairs?
Yeah.
I just like I'm not an idiot. I mean, please. I'm not gonna let somebody. Listen, kid. Let me show you this hole. Yeah. I'm not about to, have my arm snapped off and stuck up my backside because just to entertain a bloke. And I found some of the aspects of it, to be quite honest, to be cruel. It was more hazing than anything, And I just didn't think it was fun to sit upstairs in the living room and let Stu Hart work on you down in the dungeon, and then listen to the grunts and the groans and the cries of pain coming up through the air ducts while everybody laughed. I mean, that just didn't amuse me at all.
Sure.
I don't know, right or wrong, I made the decision that no.
Definitely.
Simple.
Yep. Now, your character, I think, was pretty much based off the mainstream popularity of the Crocodile Dundee movie. Were you a fan of the movie, and did you like the idea of being able to bring that character to life in the WWF then?
Well, yes. Pardon me. The thing was, I guess it was parallel. I mean, I think Crocodile Dundee came out and I arrived about 4 days later.
Oh, wow.
And as it was, I mean, I'm not as fanciful as Mick Dundee, but certainly I did everything that he did. I mean, I can't necessarily hypnotize a water buffalo, but you give him enough beer and a water buffalo will fall over half track,
Definitely. Now, throughout wrestling, a lot of people don't get to witness what happens behind the scenes, whether who's who's friends with who's feuding with who in the locker room. How was it like to be a part of that locker room back then? What was it like back there?
Well, it was a brand new experience for me, and from this standpoint, I'd played a lot of football, a lot of organized sports, and you sort of, you know, in the sports that I've ever played, especially football, it's camaraderie all around. You know, you go play your game of rugby or rugby league, and afterwards you get hammered and you have a fun time, and that's it. But you know, you may not get on with everybody, but it's only rare that there would be a dust up or something like that. Mm-hmm. But in the wrestling game, everybody's mostly friendly, but you've always apparently got to guard yourself like a two bruti, because everybody's an individual and they're selfishly out for themselves. So it breeds that sort of contempt, mm-hmm. if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, definitely.
But everybody's generally pretty good. But there was a bunch of snarkiness that went on, and people, you know, trying to one up and all that sort of stuff so they could better their positions. But that's the name of the game.
No, yeah, definitely. Also, you know, you said in the past that Hillbilly Jim, the Junkyard Dog, and Hulk Hogan helped you out backstage and whatnot. And while Bobby Heenan treated you poorly, anything you can tell us about that?
Bobby Heenan was just sticking to his character, and as far as he realized, you know, I mean, I'm just a bloody jabroni.
Yeah.
You know, this new mutt that's been brought in and getting a big old push, and you know, he had to make me look good in as far as in some of the interviews and stuff like that. And you know, Heenan was all right, but he I guess, you know, Heenan had his own way because he was Bobby Heenan the whole time. And you know, it's not like he was Bobby Heenan. Then when he took off his shiny coat, he became Bob Smith. He was still Bobby Heenan.
Yep. Now, how was it like? How was the transition for you to where back in Australia you're watching wrestling on TV, and then, you know, a few months later, you get to actually be a part of this. You wrestled in Madison Square Garden. How was it being able to perform in front of all these fans? And was it just surreal and larger than life to actually be a part of it?
You know, if you look back on it now, yes, it was surreal without a question. But then at the time, things are moving so fast that you don't get a chance to really scratch yourself and take it in too much. I mean, you know, Madison Square Garden is obviously Mecca, mm-hmm. and there's just something about Madison Square Garden, and to actually say and know that, hey, wait a minute, I've wrestled in Madison Square Garden for the WWF, WWE. I've been there a dozen times. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's something to be, I think, in your memories, to be cherished and looked upon as an achievement. But the transition from being an ordinary fellow that goofed off, got drunk every Saturday at the pub, yes, it's certainly worlds apart.
Definitely, and you were also part of history too, part of WrestleMania 3, probably one of the biggest shows out of the year for WWE or WWF. How was it like to be a part of a WrestleMania?
It was that's when we got the chance to sit back and go, good bloody Lord, holy cow!
Yeah,
you know, I mean, 93,000 plus people, bums in seats. I mean, that's it's staggering. Mm-hmm. And then I went back there about 3 weeks after that. I wrestled with Hammer Valentine, and we had a huge crowd. We had 45,000 people, and the place was empty. It just seemed empty, you know. And but yet when you're there and there's 93,000 people, it's like, you know, the classic saying is a sea of humanity.
Yeah.
And that one you had to really check your nerves.
Definitely. Now, a lot of things we never get to see happen, or you know, things are talked about that they might happen. And we also heard that Hillbilly Jim and you were actually supposed to win the tag team championships at one point, but the idea fell through. I know you probably may not know the idea or what happened with that, but is there anything you could probably tell us about that going on, and maybe what could have been?
I can tell you the absolute honest truth here. Hillbilly and I we were to get the straps mm-hmm. from the Hart Foundation, I believe, at the time, and there was going to be a big push, and unfortunately, I mean, Hillbilly and I worked well together, but there was a rather ugly sequence of what's the best word to use, manhandling by some chaps, and I fell unwell. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
And I think they sort of thought, well, we can't really do this. And you know, there were some times there that I didn't necessarily have the people backing me in the back office.
All right. Now, you have been also outspoken about your use of steroids. In today's landscape, the WWE has a wellness policy in which superstars are tested every so often. What are your thoughts about that? And do you think something like that maybe should have been in place back in the 80s?
I wasn't outspoken about it. I happily tell you, I did steroids. Of course I did. You couldn't survive with the number of shots we did every year without, and shot by shot I mean shows, not steroid shots. You couldn't survive without having some additive to repair injuries. I mean, it's like the NFL. I mean, I consider the wrestling that I did, the 4 years or so that I ran around there, I would consider that to easily the equivalent of 2 years in the NFL. The banging, the sprains, the twists, and you can't stop.
Yeah.
I mean, if you stop, you don't get a paycheck, and you soon realize that, wait a minute, I can't take 3 days off. That's X number of dollars out of the whippy. So the reason you took the steroids obviously was to get stronger, but mainly because if you did get injured, you'd be repaired a bunch quicker. You know, I can tell you quite clearly, I dislocated a shoulder in a match. I think I was working with Neidhart, and he threw me over the top rope, and I missed the top rope to, guide my fall down, and I landed on the concrete floor, and I drove my elbow into the floor, and actually all that did is pop my shoulder out of the top. I pulled it back into place and finished up the match. But the thing was, I that's a 6 to 8 week debilitating injury. But because I was taking steroids, and I obviously had to take care of myself. I had to take a week off from doing anything. I mean, I still worked, but I couldn't go to the gym. About 10 days later, I could do 45-pound flies again to get my shoulder back into shape.
Yeah, definitely. In today's wrestling too, a lot of the guys, they're on the road for 300 plus days a year. And some people are talking about, is it too much to where almost it's almost like, should wrestling have seasons where they get off a certain amount of weeks, they do it for a certain amount of time instead of doing it 300 plus days a year? Do you think that would be realistic maybe in the wrestling business, or you really have to be on the road 5 days a week? You got to travel just to get your face in front of different audiences, right? I mean, is it too much, you think, with the traveling from back then even to today? Is it too much on a person?
Well, back then we did 300 shows a year easily. You'd be on for 90 days, and somewhere along the way you'd then get 3 or 4 days off.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'd try and work it so you were close to your house, or in my case, my house at the time was in Fairfield, Connecticut. And then I lived up in Boston for a little while. But what I would do, depending where I was, I would stay in the location I was, and I would sightsee. So I wanted to. You didn't get much of a chance to go out and have a look around when you were working, but 3 to 4 days off, you could. I could go around and have a look at Albuquerque and look at varying places. Have a wander around Los Angeles, San Francisco. So that was beneficial to me, and that's what I did. But we did 300 days a year, but and it was tough. It was very tough, and it takes a toll on your body. It takes you a toll on you emotionally. I think Roddy Piper said that. There's nothing quite like the loneliness of being on the road.
Yeah.
And the show actually makes you come alive. But then afterwards, when you're done, you go back to the hotel room and you're sitting there and you're looking at, good God, what are these bloody walls doing?
Yeah.
And that's, I don't think it's too much as long as you can handle it. And we were talking before about Vince McMahon's and the WWE's wellness program.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure whether that's true or not. I mean, it seems as though I did read a little bit ago that there were 2 or 3 or 4 wrestlers, male and female, that were suspended for breaching their wellness program, and I'm just unsure what that was.
Yeah, so there were a few wrestlers were, and they didn't specifically say what it was that they were suspended for, but I believe one wrestler was suspended for, I believe it was just a testosterone supplement kind of thing to just balance out what he was taking. So it's a variety of things, from anything from marijuana to certain medications are banned. So it's a whole list of, I don't have the list in front of me, but it's definitely a whole list of things these days. And like you said, these guys are on the road. You're on the road for 300 plus days of shows a year. It's where the body breaks down and needs to heal. And it's, you can't really just sleep on it, right? It's the body, right. Especially when you're traveling so much and like that, you definitely need something to help you to recover. So
I do think, the thing about marijuana, I mean, yes, illicit drugs that some people take, obviously are bad. But the getting squirrely about somebody smoking a little bit of pot, that to me is hypocritical.
Yeah.
I just think it is.
Mm-hmm. Now, just to go back to a little lighter side, for some history fans out there, we have that you were probably the first person ever that Ted DiBiase put the $100 bill in their mouth, and also I believe Ted DiBiase wanted it back after the match, but you refused.
I'm not giving that back to him. Are you kidding me? Stick $100 in my mouth. I'm hanging on to that. Yeah, I bit down on it. I never gave it back to him back again.
How was it working with Ted DiBiase too? Was he a good guy?
Phenomenal. He was fantastic. He's the absolute consummate ring general. And when a face works with the heel, the heel controls the match. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody knows that. It's not like I'm telling stories out of school. And he tells the story, you follow along, makes you look good. And he, as I said, he was a masterful ring general for that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And a decent bloke with it. Mm-hmm. There was some fellows were obviously I don't know, were caught up in whatever, but there was nothing to be gained by Ted. He wanted to do the job, be friends, go off and go back to his hotel room, have some deal or do whatever, and then go to the next spot.
Definitely. Now, from him to the weirdest guy, I believe you said you ever wrestled was the Ultimate Warrior. Why is that?
I worked with the Ultimate Warrior in a Royal Rumble. I mean, he's just unpredictability.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You just you never knew where Jim was coming from.
Yeah.
And that was just, and you just, as soon as you got a hold on what you thought he was going to do, and I mean, mentally what you think he was going to do next, or so you could set up for whatever, it would change, or it wouldn't be what you thought,
Mm-hmm. Now, also, too, when you left the WWF at the time, I believe you got a TV show called This Is Adventure with Outback Jack.
This Is Adventure, yep, absolutely.
What can you tell us about that? And was it a little bit different for you, the first time doing like a television show, as far as outside of wrestling?
Well, it was initially, because it obviously delved into the stuff I'd done in the past, working on a cattle station, and it was a, good grief, what was it, 20 years, 18 years before the Crocodile Hunter.
Yeah. And
certainly the same sort of show, very similar, but our stuff was shot all over the world. Where we, obviously initially we primarily looked at Australian wildlife, but then we started to do a couple of shows, and one of them was a big one, was about the founding of Australia and the transportation of convicts from Britain and from the US to the shores of Australia. And actually, we did a whole show on Port Arthur down in Tasmania, which was where the prisoners that were the absolute worst in the world. They'd be, if they were alive now, they'd be in solitary in that Supermax prison out there in Colorado, because these people were truly evil. You know, one of them, Frank Pierce, was he was a murderer, a rapist, and that's a standard for the course. I mean, there are a lot of murderers and rapists, but the one thing that Frank did was he ate his fellow prisoners. He lured over the years. He lured away 8 different prisoners to escape into the bush from Port Arthur, and lo and behold, he ate them all. So there was the I don't think both oars touched the water at the same time with young Mr. Pierce.
Yeah.
They eventually got fed up with him, to coin a phrase, and they hung him. But so we were doing history shows like that. We did a show in New Guinea about down bombers from the Second World War, and it was a very different show, but we still managed to show wildlife and stuff like that.
Nice.
And very definitely a different show to the crocodile hunter. And may rest in peace, although I was not a fan of his.
All right. Now, if you could give one piece of advice for anybody looking to pursue a career in wrestling, or some guys who are just maybe starting out in wrestling right now, is there anything you could probably tell them who, they probably have some naive minds to where they don't really know too much about getting into a full career, but anything you could give them as far as advice, what they should look out for, maybe?
I would think the best thing to do is don't take yourself too seriously. Don't believe your own publicity, and don't become a legend in your own lunchtime. And at the same time, choose who you really want to believe as a mentor, because not everybody's going to be your mate. And you'll be able to work that out. So if you go into the business with a little bit of street smarts, like I said, not everybody's going to be your mate, and just don't take yourself too seriously, so stuff doesn't go wacky on you and you take it the wrong way. At the same time, you've also got to have a set of balls.
Oh yeah.
I mean that's without a doubt. I mean, and somewhere along the way you will be tested.
Definitely. Well, Outback Jack, it was great having you on here today. We really appreciate your time. And for the fans listening around the world, we thank you so much.
Mate, Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure, and that was wonderful. Everything flowed nicely, and you're a great interviewer. Thank you very much.
This is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to another wrestling podcast in association with Celeb VM. Order a personal video message from me and many other wrestlers and celebrities now. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
That's right. Head on over to celebvm.com/AWP.
Get a personal video message for yourself or as a gift for someone else. For personal connections, shout-outs, birthdays, proposals, weddings, and much more. Enter your details about yourself so the celebrity can record a personal video message especially for you, including details such as your name, age, birthday, hobbies, or whatever else you include. As soon as the video has been recorded, you'll get an email with your link so you can share it on social media or download and keep it. Celebrities record videos as and when they can, usually within 2 weeks. But if you want a video for a specific date and it does not look like it will arrive in time, you can cancel it and get an instant refund at the click of a button. There are hundreds of celebrities to choose from and many more joining every day. Search by category or genre. Buy a gift voucher, get updates and offers, and encourage your favorite celebrities to join so they can connect with fans in a fun and unique way. Raise money for their charities and much more. So order your video now for yourself or for someone else.
Celebrity video messages and another wrestling podcast team up. Be sure to head on over to celebvm.com/AWP.
Oh, man, thank you, Outback Jack. That was a great interview with you and Credo. Guys, make sure you head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com for all our links at the top of the page. Like us, follow us, and most importantly, subscribe to us.
That's right. Now, if you're listening for the first time out there, I want to remind you, what makes us different than any other podcast. Each week, we don't just talk about what happened on Raw, the whole shebang, what happened on SmackDown, yada, yada, yada. We try to pick an evergreen topic. So whether you're listening to episode 1 or 127, there's something on there that you can listen to any time of the year, any day of the week, whatever. And this week is no different. We spoke to Outback Jack. His character was an Australian coming to America and wrestling. So I did some research online. I went to this website. It's au.complex.com. I found a little article, which I'm going to read some points about what they wrote, and I want to thank them again, too. Make sure you head on over there, guys. It's au.complex.com. They did a little story back in January on a history of Australian wrestlers in the WWE. Now, like I said, we talk about different topics all the time, and what better to do than talk about all the Aussies who have made it to the big time. So they created a list documenting the detailed history of Aussie wrestlers making it to the big smoke in the WWE, they call it, and what they did and where they're at right now. So right off the top, we talked to Outback Jack, which is one of the names on the list, who debuted in '86. He gave us a little bit about his history and what he did back in the ring. So we already talked to him. Kuter, another Aussie who made it big, was Nathan Jones. He debuted in 2003. Do you remember?
Of course I remember, and I wouldn't exactly say that he made it big either.
Well, made it to the big time, right?
Oh, okay, fair enough. But I remember him. He was supposed to tag with The Undertaker. I think it was WrestleMania 19, Safeco Field, against The Big Show and A-Train or Albert or Tenzai or whatever the hell his name was that year. And it ended up being a handicap match with just The Undertaker versus those two guys. And for some strange reason, at the end of the match, Nathan Jones runs down to the ring, spin kicks one of them, and I'm like, oh, I thought this was a handicap match. Shouldn't the ref disqualify them? No. So, if you ask me, The Undertaker's undefeated streak should have ended at WrestleMania 19 because of Nathan Jones.
And that's
just
right.
saying.
That's right. And here's what au.complex.com had to say a little bit about him. So they said it wasn't until the early 2000s that the WWE decided to give it a go with another Australian wrestler. Once again, the 7-foot-tall Nathan Jones was billed as a big deal early on, with a set of vignettes that played heavily upon his real-life stint in Bogo Road Gallo after being charged for armed robbery in 1987. These tasters for his character indicated he was a Goliath of a man hardened by 10 years of prison with an incredible appetite for violence. They also say during his time in jail, Jones got into powerlifting, eventually becoming a champion of Australia, and prior to WWE was quite active in the World's Strongest Man competitions, in mixed martial arts competitions, and he eventually debuted for WWE. Now, the traits of the character that have been featured in the vignettes seem diluted, and he ended up in the storyline, like you mentioned, with The Undertaker, his tag team partner and protege in WrestleMania. So, once again, Vince loved the big guys. They brought him in, and it just didn't go as planned, I guess you could say, for him. He had the look, he had the size, but from what they say, he just didn't have quite the in-ring ability as they hoped for. So, You know
what else I remember him from?
What's that?
He was in The Condemned with Steve Austin, and he lasted in WWE about as long as he lasted in that tournament, in that movie.
Yeah, he was actually also in Mad Max Fury Road that came out last year, too.
That's right, yeah.
So, yeah, so that's one Aussie guy that, made it big in the WWE, probably had a bigger career than maybe Outback Jack, but Outback Jack also was in WrestleMania, so they both had a WrestleMania match pretty much. More importantly, though, I think one of my favorites, and I can't wait to see more of her, who's actually returning soon, is Emma. Any thoughts about Emma?
None that I could really share on this podcast, Credo. I would just like to say this. Zack Ryder is a lucky, lucky man. Emma is a lovely, lovely young lady, and I would love to buy her a case for her iPad. I'm just saying.
Well, they state in the article, too, that Emma has the distinction of being the very first Australian WWE diva. Well, now superstar, there's no more divas, but, she's arguably the most successful wrestler from the country thus far. She from what they say, she's fallen in love with wrestling at 8 years old. She was training in the ring at the age of 13, and she also wrestled for Pro Wrestling Alliance Australia under the ring name Valentine, before eventually celebrating her 19th birthday by moving to Canada to train with former WWE wrestler Lance Storm. She would then return to her home country and then travel around the globe to compete before approaching Storm to further her training in 2011. So she's been around the block. She's done a lot of stuff to further her career, and, she's unfortunately had some setbacks with some injuries lately, and I think she was up for a big push before she got injured late last year. So from what I hear, she's actually on the road right now, and she's doing some refereeing matches for some of the I'm so used to saying divas matches, but for some of the women's matches. So I think she's pretty much on her way back in, so we'll see how they use her, I guess. And man, I'm
looking forward to her for sure coming back. And the other thing was, when she first got sent to the main roster the first time, and she just flopped after she had that great run in NXT.
It was that dance, man. In NXT it worked, but then it was like when they brought it to Raw, people were like, what's going on?
Some things just don't translate well from that crowd in Full Sail up to the main roster. Adam Rose, another example. But when they brought her back down and they repackaged her as that badass, and with Dana Brooke and, the whole just mean thing, she stretched the shit out of a few people, let me tell you, and she just looked good doing it. She looked more, she looked more comfortable in that role as opposed to that goofy face. Her as a vicious heel is definitely perfect for her, and I'm looking forward to her coming back, because I would love to see her get reunited with Dana Brooke and basically make Dana turn on Charlotte, and we could have a nice little program between Emma and Charlotte, two of the best women's wrestlers that we have on the roster, in my opinion.
That's right. And moving right along down in NXT, Buddy Murphy, they say with Emma's relative success in comparison to two previous experiments, the door appeared to open to Australian wrestlers after 2012. Matthew Adams, often going by the ring name Matt Silva, had been competing and winning championships in Melbourne Promotions Professional Championship Wrestling and Melbourne City Wrestling, along with others around the country since around 2007. He signed a WWE developmental contract in 2013, and he made his TV debut on NXT as Buddy Murphy only a year later. His most successful stint has been teaming up with Wesley Blake, duly fondly named the Dubstep Cowboys by internet commentators after the combination of their entrance music and conspicuous ring attire. The tag team managed to win the NXT Tag Team Championships in early 2015, making 27-year-old Murphy the first Australian to take championship gold in the WWE. The team's reign lasted 219 days before they were defeated by the Vaud Villains. So once again, another Aussie who made it big and was one of the first world champions in WWE, or a guy to win championship gold in the WWE. So, from Emma being the first, to make it as a female Aussie, he's the first male to win championship gold in WWE. So that's it's a big accomplishment.
Wasn't Emma the women's champion in NXT?
She was not. Nope.
She was not. Okay. All right. I was going to say, I was about to call, bullshit on this article here.
So it was Paige, then it was vacated, then it was Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and then Asuka. So there's only been 5 women champions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. You're staying corrected.
There you go. So, hey, man, so right down the line of some Aussies right there, you got one of the first female ones to make it big, one of the first males to make it big in WWE by winning championship gold. Moving right down the line, another girl who I'm digging this girl, and I can't wait to see more of her, but Peyton Royce, who debuted in 2015. You probably remember her from the NXT show we went to in Albany with the Flower. She's the Flower Girl.
Yes.
And then, so she still has yet to do more in NXT, but just a little bit about her from the article. It says, while her early life was spent in Sydney, another Melbourneian, Casey McIntosh, would join Emma and Murphy in the company last year, with the two having already paved the way for Aussie talent. At this point in time, McIntosh competed from age 17 in Australia's only women's professional wrestling promotion, Pro Wrestling Women's Alliance, PWAA, and similar to Emma, eventually found her way to Lance Storm's training facility in Canada. Man, thank you, Lance Storm, for producing a lot of these great talents.
Yeah, really.
And they also say while WWE toured Australia in 2014, McIntosh managed to get a tryout and was announced the following year as a developmental talent in NXT, being rebranded with the name Peyton Royce. While she only has competed on television a handful of times, she has already begun developing a seemingly self-absorbed heel character in her recent matches. So she's still in the works of developing something. So we have yet to see more of Peyton Royce, but hey, just another one to add to the list. Sure. And one more I think name we could mention tonight is Billie Kay, like you said. They say in the article, Sydney-born Jessica McKay traveled along a similar trajectory to high school pal Peyton Royce, making her wrestling debut on her 18th birthday and spending much of her early career competing for PWWA. She would eventually make her way to the U.S. to compete for another female promotion in 2008, Shimmer, before making further appearances in indie wrestling's mainstays Ring of Honor and Shakara. Entering the WWE in the same intake as longtime friend Peyton, she also debuted on television on the NXT brand, having been renamed Billie Kay, and recently been competing as a heel character. She also made one SmackDown match, I believe, and I thought when she debuted on SmackDown, I thought that was it. I thought they already moved her up that quick, so it was just a one-time appearance. But, out of the list of names from Billie Kay to Peyton Royce, Buddy Murphy, Emma, Nathan Jones, Outback Jack, just a handful of some of these Australian wrestlers who have made it to the big time, if you will, over here in America, at the WWE, which is the biggest fish in the sea, pretty much. But Kuter, there's still a lot more guys, which we can't really talk too much about because they're still in developmental, but just some of the names: Chris Atkins, who's a future prospect. Shazam McKenzie, another future prospect, and Daniel Vidot. Hope I didn't butcher these names. I apologize, but there's a few more Aussies in the wings, Kuter, pretty much. And I think if we could talk briefly about not just Australians or Aussies. I'm sorry, I don't really know how to perfectly call who's what, but if you think about it, going back to the 90s, you had guys who were plumbers, guys who were clowns, you know what I mean? And now it's shifted to, this guy's from Ireland, this guy's from Bulgaria, this guy's from Australia, this guy's from, China, Hong Kong. It's more or less, a map of the stars of the world, like everybody's coming from a different country. And that's pretty much their gimmick nowadays, if you think about it. I mean, they're taking their heritage, their country, and putting it within their character. I mean, Sheamus, you got the guy from Ireland. Rusev, the guy from Bulgaria, then went to Russia, then back to Bulgaria. But you know what I mean, right? So it's almost interesting to where, their countries are pretty much becoming their gimmicks in a way.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, you can make that correlation that's with what MMA does. I mean, they don't have characters. They always basically tell these people when they're announcing them where they're from and what their martial arts background is. So if a guy is a boxer from Ireland or, a jiu-jitsu specialist from Brazil, I mean, that's kind of similar in my way. I wonder if that has anything to do with it, maybe to try to grab some fans that way. But who the hell knows? I mean, I do not miss the days of TP Hopper coming down with his plunger or,
Definitely.
the goon with his hockey stick. I don't miss that. I like this national-based, character.
Yeah, definitely. It just helps them grow as a company too throughout the world, because it's like when you go to their home country, that guy's winning, like Nakamura or Hideo Itami. When they go back to Japan, baby, they're going to win. They're not going to lose or whatever. So it's made it interesting pretty much, especially with that network special they did in Tokyo. It's like going to these home countries and using these certain guys on the show. So it's definitely the way the WWE has been molded throughout the past few years of definitely making light of where. But once again, Kuter, man, another topic for our show. If you guys have a topic you want us to talk about that is more than just reviewing a show, let us know. Kuter, we have anotherwrestlingpodcast.com, but where could they find us on Facebook and Twitter, baby?
Head over to us on Facebook.com/anotherwrestlingpodcast, Twitter.com/awrestlingpod. Leave us your comments, tweet at us, we'll get back to you. Tell us what you want us to talk about.
That's right. And just to remind everybody out there, we also have our own hotline. It's not like the 80s hotline. We're not going to charge you 90 cents a minute or whatnot. It's free, guys. You call up. You can call any time of day. Leave a message. It's 802-297-7672. That's 802-AWP-7672. Leave us a comment. We'll play the best calls on next week's show. There's so many ways to reach out to us and let us know what you want to hear. So, hey, that's pretty much how we do it.